Alright, we're now holding Daf Hey Amud Beis. Welcome later. Daf Hey Amud Beis. We're holding in the middle of an Inyan. So just to summarize, it was like this: we had a machlokas on Daf Dalet. We had a machlokas. There's a halacha in the Torah that you have to, that if you delay a pledge, let's say you decide to give a korban in Beis Hamikdash, and you delay that paying that korban. So there's a machlokas, when are you over on a loises called blatt, delaying the korban. So the machlokas whether the pasuk says lois achal l'shalmoi, that pasuk says in connection to Yontif. Therefore, the Chacham said that we are connecting the issur of blatt with Yom Tovim. Now, how many? Anything, a nadava, a ned, a nadava, maisa, bikurim, the whole, everything that you have to pledge and you have to bring to Beis Hamikdash, that you have to. So there's a certain time period that they allow you to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. So there's machlokas. One guy says that you have only one yontif. If that next yontif passes, you made a pledge. Once Pesach passes, you're over balta'achal. One guy says no, not one yontif, a specific yontif, sukkos. So therefore, you technically can have sometimes 3 yom tovim. Pesach Shavuos and sukkos. But sukkos. One opinion is that any 2 yom tovim that pass by right after you make the pledge. The next opinion, the fourth opinion is 3 yom tovim, and the fifth opinion is 3 yom tovim, but sukkos is the last. The Pesach is the first. Sukkos is the last. So therefore, sometimes if you make a pledge right after Pesach, you technically have almost 2 years because you have to go Shavuos, sukkos, and then start the count Pesach Shavuos sukkos. And that's the machlokas. Then the Gemarrah asks, how do we know this whole concept of Baal Te'achad? And the Gemarrah brings a pasuk. Gesida neder l'Hashem elekecha, lo yisa'achel l'shalmoim. If you made a vow to the Eibusha, lo yisa'achel l'shalmoim, do not delay it. Ki do yishud Hashem l'Hashem elekecha, the Eibusha is going to request it from me'imach from you. V'oi b'chochet. And the Gemarrah is basically saying that there are so many redundant words in this pasuk. He could have written the pasuk with half the words. And the Gemarrah dissects each word and learns from each word that is extra something. But this is the pasuk that teaches us lo yisa'achel l'shalmoim. Now, it says, Lo yisa'achel l'shalmoi, do not delay its payment. The its is redundant because all you could have said, do not delay payment. What is its payment? So the Gemarrah learns from here that the only the korban, the original korban, you designated an animal for korban oila. That animal, if you didn't bring it over 3 yom tovim or 2 yom tovim, whatever it is, then you're over Baal Te'achal. But if you lost the animal, and you basically had to designate another animal, and then you found the first animal, and you brought the first animal for the korban. The second animal, even though it's going to take the same halacha as the first animal, so if the first animal was a korban oila, and you lost it, the second animal is also going to be a korban oila. However, you're not going to be over Baal Te'achal after 1 yontif, 2 yontif, or 3 yom tovim. That's what the pasuk. That's what the Gemarrah starts. The Gemarrah asks a simple question: if it's considered a korban oila in our example, then it should be like a regular korban oila. That just like the first korban oila, once you decided to bring korban oila, you only have 3 yom tovim. The second korban oila also has 3 yom tovim whenever you changed it out. So it's the same. The same rule applies. So it can't be l'shalmoi. Its payment cannot be talking about a substitute of a korban of a oila shlamim. Chatos, it can't be because a substitute of a korban chatos. If you had a korban chatos, you made an aveda, you have to bring a korban chatos, and then you lost the first korban chatos, and you bring another korban, then you designate another animal instead, and then you found the first one, you bring the first one as a korban chatos. I mean, you really have a choice, bring the first one, but the other one, the substitute, you have to actually let it die, because a korban chatos is specific for an aveda, for a specific animal. Once that aveda was taken care of, you can't use the animal for anything else. What? Me'ila? No, it's not Me'ila. No, it's called chatas amosais, and basically you can't use it for anything else. You let it not pass. You actually you put it in a den, and you feed it certain things that the stomach explodes, or you put it in the den and don't feed it. Not pasture until it gets a mum, because a mum doesn't help. This doesn't even help. Even after it gets a mum, it's still kodesh. So here you push it, let it die. You help it die. You can't kill it because it's kachim. It's still a holy animal, so you let it die. So it can't be a korban chatas because a korban chatas, if you can't use it, if you let it die, there's no issur of Baal Te'achad, there's no delaying, you can't bring it. So the Gemarrah brings an answer. The first answer is that it's chuluf toida. You have a korban toida, that you traveled, or you were sick, came out of jail, etc. So you travel, you have to bring korban toida. The Torah says, when you bring a korban todah, you have to bring 40 lechem. The halacha is that the original korban todah, you designated an animal A for korban todah, you have to bring 40 lechem with it. If you lost the korban on the way, and you designate a second korban, the second one, the halacha says you cannot bring 40 lechem, 40 breads with it. That's the halacha. The original comes with 40 lechem. The second one, the substituted one, does not come with 40 lechem. What happens if you lost the first one, you designated the second one, then you found the first one. Now you have two animals. What do you do with it? So the simple solution is take both of them to the Beis Hamikdash, bring 40 lechem, and instead the 40 lechem is connected to the original one. What if you mix them up? You don't know which one is which. Again, take them both to the Beis Hamikdash, bring 40 lechem, and you say, if this is the first one, the 40 lechem belongs to this. If this is the first one, the original one, 40 lechem belongs here. What if you lost it? You designate the second one. You found the first one. They got mixed up. One of them dies. You don't know which one is which. So the Gemarrah says here, ein letakana. You can't do anything with the animal because you can't bring it without the bread because maybe it's the original one. You can't bring it with the bread because maybe it's a substitute one. So what do? You can't do anything with it. And on this, the Torah tells you there's no isabal ta'achar. You have to be makav as a kalban, but there's no delaying. But you can't bring it as a kalban either because there's no bread. So the Gemarrah asks, if you can't bring it as a kalban, why do you even think that there's a isra of bal ta'achar? So the Gemarrah answers, and this is what we're holding. So if you look in Tosfos Elchen v'Chadam, a few lines down, the line starts with Lamali. Amar Absheshes le'olam le'meute chelufa oila shlam. When it says l'shalmoi, it comes to exclude. If you had a korban oila and you lost it, you have a korban oila and you have now a substitute korban oila. That's what it's talking about. This is the case that we're talking about. Kigon, you designated an animal for korban oila or korban shlam. According to the opinion that you have to 3 Yom Tovim, that's when you oivel. 2 Yom Tovim passed, and he didn't bring it yet. Now you're standing between the second Yom Tov and the third Yom Tov, and during that period, v'humam, it had a mum, it became blemished, so now you can't use it. So now you have to switch it to another animal. You make this animal, the first one chayil, and the second animal substitute is kodesh now. Now you have 2 animals. One is not good to use because it's a blemish, and you have the new animal. This new animal, 1 Yom Tov passed. Now you technically have 3 Yom Tov in the past. Since the moment that you decided I'm going to bring a korban oila, you have 3 Yom Tov in the past. We're talking about 2 animals, but 3 Yom Tov in the past. We would have thought because the second animal is here only because of the first animal. So let's continue to count 2 Yom Tov passed already. And now the third one is passing. Commander of Olav Gimel Galim with 3 Yom Tovim pass, and therefore should be over. Kamash Melon, the pasuk is coming to teach you that only the original animal do you have the chiyuv of Baal Ta'achal, but the substitute one, no, you count again 3 Yom Tovim, 1, 2, 3. The opinion that you only have so that's the answer. The Shesh's answer is done. There was an opinion that you only have 1 Yom Tov and you write about Baal Ta'achal, which is the opinion of the Meir. So the Gemarrah asks, according to that Meir, that you only have 1 Yom Tov, so now you stood between a Shoshana and Pesach, and you decided I'm going to bring a korban oila, pledged a korban oila, and this korban oila, as soon as I pledged it, I designated it, got a blemish. So now I have to switch it to another korban. The moment Pesach comes and Pesach passes, according to the Meir, I'm oivel. Because he says you only got 1 Yom Tov. Doesn't make a difference when it becomes a mum. Only got 1 Yom Tov. If you designate it another time, you only got 1 Yom Tov again. So how are you going to explain l'shalmoi hu v'lo chilufav, that only the original animal but not its substitute? Explains what are we talking about? Oh, welcome back. Shehumam betoich haregel. This is a view that's all machkim, said, right? What's it called? Shehum betoich haregel. So you designated an animal, and comes Pesach, and you decided, the first couple of days on Pesach, too much going on in Beis Hamikdash. Let me wait till Chol Hamoed. Things are going to calm down. Things are going to settle. Let me bring this korban oila during Chol Hamoed. So what happens during Chol Hamoed? The animal gets a mum, gets a blemish, and they have to switch it out. So the animal never had a full Yom Tov pass. and according to the male, and accordingly also the chacham, but you have to have a full yontif pass in order for you to be oiv bal ta'achal. So now you have an animal, you designated it in Chavtes Adar, let's say, the Shchaydes Nisan, and you came to the Beis Hamikdash in the middle of Yud Ches Nisan, the middle of Chalamoid, and on the day the animal gets a blemish, and you change it. Now you have an animal that was only half yontif passed, and the other animal only half yontif passed. Since it became an oila, is it an issue? So this is what the Gemarrah is telling us. L'shalmoi, that in such a case, the second animal, you're not over bal ta'achal, according to the male, because you have to have a full yontif. And only when Shavuos comes in and Shavuos passes, that's when you're going to be over. Maybe because the Salkadad, you would have thought because this animal became a Kodesh animal because of the first one. So just continue the count of Pesach. It would be considered that the entire Pesach. The entire Pesach passed by, and you're over. Kamash Malon, that L'Shalmei means only the original one, but if there's a substitute animal that happened in the middle of Yontif, no, you're not Chayiv Bal Ta'achal. Okay, that's the end of this Gemarrah. There's the last piece in that pasuk that we dissected. It says V'hoya b'chachet, and the Gemarrah teaches V'hoya b'chachet v'loy b'kaban chachet. If you do not bring the korban within its time, one yontif, 2 yontif, whatever it is, you're gonna have a sin. But v'loy b'kaban chachet, your korban stays a good korban. It's not a blemished korban. What's the chiddush? The Gemarrah is going to ask what the chiddush. The Gemarrah here is asking. We learn this concept from 2 other places, and why does the pasuk have to repeat itself a 3rd time? You learn the idea, the concept that the korban itself does not get blemished if you do not bring it in its designated time. You learn it from somewhere else. You learn it from a chedim, a meir. The Tanya you learn the Meir says, this talk about a b'chayr that says that you have to bring it within 1 year. A b'chayr is born. Machlokes whether you have to wait 8 days, because any animal you can't check any animal before 8 days old. So there's machlokes whether you start the count of a year from the day it's born or from 8 days. Okay, side machlokes. But the b'chayr, you only have a year to bring it. What happens if the year passes? You didn't bring it. So you're over, you made an avela, but the question, can you still bring the b'chayr? The b'chayr has to go to the kohen, has to go to the Beis Hamikdash, can you still bring it? Zok the Gemarrah, Yachal, I would have thought. A b'chayr that a year past should be considered like psula hamikdash, any korban that became possible for whatever reason. The korban itself becomes possible. Maybe b'chayr should be the same way that the b'chayr itself becomes possible if a year passes. Talmud loima ve'ochalta lifnei Hashem elekecha. It says in the pasuk, you should eat in front of the Eibush. The ma'isa the gonacha torah shavitzarecha. The ma'isa of your wheat, of your vineyard, the oil, olives v'tzarecha in your vineyard. B'chayr is b'kolcha v'tzanecha, and the b'chayr of your cattle. So it says ma'isa and b'chayr in the same pasuk. Makish b'chayr l'ma'isa. He compares b'chayr to ma'isa. Ma ma'isa and nifsla m'shana l'chaverta. Ma'isa, even though the first year you have to bring ma'isa rishon, the second year you have to bring ma'isa sheni, and the third year you have to bring ma'isa ani. What happens if you don't bring them in its time? The pasuk says in Zvarim, right? The pasuk says that I cleaned out my entire house, everything. It says that I came on the 3rd year, Bashana Shlishis. So Maisa, even though the first year passed, you didn't bring Maisa Rishon, the second year passed, you didn't bring Maisa Sheni, you still have to bring Maisa. So just like Maisa, Maisa itself does not become possible from 1 year to the other. Also, if the year passes and you didn't bring the B'chayr to Beis Hamikdash, the B'chayr itself is still good and bring it up to Beis Hamikdash. So here you see a pasuk that is makish, that puts B'chayr together with Maisa. That just like Maisa, you can bring it after you were late already. B'chayr also you can bring it after you're late. The same thing is also B'chayr is a korban. The same thing applies for any korban. Just like b'chayr, you can bring it after the year passed. The same also, a oila, a chata, shlamim, whatever it is, you still have to bring the korban. You were oivel, yes, you were oivel avela bal ta'achal, but you could still bring it, and you could still, the Eibush is still going to forgive you, or whatever it is.
2 things. The chayred offers money both korbanai. Is one thing.
That depends on what.
And then the second thing is a lot of the korbanis have an age requirement of the behemoth itself.
Correct.
So
So
then if the age passed.
answer no. Avos man about the kabbalah is said usually about Kalban Pesach. It's said about the kabbanas that actually have a time. That's specific. Yeah, Kalban Pesach, Kalban Chagiga, Shavuos kabbanas or kabbanas. What's it called? That's
No, but if the Zman is within 3 Yom Tovim, then after the 3 Yom Tovim pass, then.
So that's the chiddush here. It's not zmanoi. There is no zman. It doesn't have a what's it called? You're oivel, but it's not batal kabbanoi. That's the idea here. The second question was, and again, the age. So first of all, who said that the animal is there? Maybe I designated it. I made a vow to bring a kalban.
The Bechor. This is the Bechor.
Correct. So this is so that's exactly what he's saying. You have to bring within the year, and still you have to bring within. And you still have what's it called? You still have to bring it afterwards.
Even if the behemoth outgrows
The
age.
bechod itself doesn't become puzzle. Certain animals have to be a certain age.
Right.
For the kalban, the bechod belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. It belongs to the Eibishter. Doesn't make a difference how old it is. The fact that you didn't bring within a time, you're over, but it still belongs to the Beis Hamikdash.
1 second. So the point here is that V'hoyer b'chachet is now available again.
The point here exactly. That's where we're going back. If we sit b'chod, it says you can delay the kalban, and still it has to bring the kalban. You have to bring the Beis Hamikdash. Something should be any kalban. So why do you say b'chod? And with the itzlach, we need both psukim. Sal kedai techamino hanim b'chod, and any other kalban is different. B'chod, a firstborn animal was born to you. You have to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, but it's not connected with an appeasement, with a kapala, with anything like that. Because it's not connected to anything, I don't have to appease, I don't have to ask the Eibush for forgiveness, so bring whatever you want. I mean, you have to bring within the time period, but if you missed, it's not going to delay anything. It's not going to delay there's no appeasement here. But Kadashim, the Bnei Atzanin, you have to bring, you have a Kab Chatas, you have to bring, I want the Eibush to forgive me, and I'm delaying this idea, so maybe the Eibush is not going to forgive me. So I need a different pasuk to teach us that the Eibush is still going to forgive us. So maybe after 3 Yom Tovim, it's not worth anything. Don't bring it because the Eibush is not. There's going to be no appeasement, no ledotzain. Kamash Malan, the pasuk is teaching us that even if the Yom Tovim passed and you were over on Baal Ta'achal, still you should bring it because the Eibush is still going to appease you. He's still going to forgive you, or there's going to be an appeasement for you. So basically we have B'chod, we have another pasuk B'chalta, B'chod and Ma'aseh, and we said why we need both. But here, B'chod and Ma'aseh, we're talking about B'chod and Ma'aseh. B'chod is different than other kabbanas, so that's why we need both psukim. I'm going to bring in another pasuk. Gemarrah is bringing another pasuk, which is talking about actual kalban. Vakati midben Azay nafke daf avanav. Now you can learn from Ben Azay itself. The Tanya Ben Azay says in pasuk, it says about that the kalban has to be eaten a certain time period. The kalban was already brought to the mizbeach. Now it has to be eaten within a certain time period. If you ate it beyond the time period, I'm reading the pasuk on the side. If you eat the kalban by Yom HaShlishi on the 3rd day, it's not appeased. You don't get any appeasement for it. Eibush is not going to accept it. Whoever brings to the mizbeach, it's not going to be considered for him. Pigul, it's going to be rejected. Whoever eats gets an aveda. So the question here is, you don't have to write hamakiv oisoi. What's the oisoi? We're talking about the animal. Why are you saying again, whoever brings it? The it is redundant. What's the oisoi come to teach us? It says in the pasuk we had before that he should not delay the payment. I would have thought, if you delay a payment, and we see from this pasuk, our pasuk here, that if you eat it too late, there's not going to be ledotzen, it's not going to be appeased, it's not going to be considered a good kalban. So I would have thought that if I'm delaying a kalban, not that I shechted yet, I didn't even bring the Beis Hamikdash yet. If I delayed it, then that's it, done. I can't appease, the korban is not going to be counted. Talmud loyma oisai, the pasuk here teaches us oisai, only a kalban that it was already shechted, and you're eating it late, that is not going to be considered an appeasement. Aber a different carbon and neder, but if you didn't bring the carbon, so again we have a pasuk here. It teaches us that only once you shecht it and you delay the food, you delay eating it, that's when it's not going to be considered a good carbon. However, if you just did a vow but it didn't bring you yet to Beis Hamikdash, it's still a good carbon. So the question is, we have a pasuk that teaches us. We have a pasuk that the new one. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Look at this. So we have a pasuk that teaches us that you could bring a carbon after its time, and the Eibush is going to accept it. Why do you need a pasuk? Why b'chochet? So the Gemarrah is going to tell us a whole different thing, and this is we're going to go into the Russian statement that a taxi driver told me years ago. As was and for the Gemarrah, ela b'chochet, when it says why b'chochet, you're going to have the sin, and your wife is not going to have a sin. Makasha, what's the connection with the wife? Sal Kedai Chamina would have followed like this. Ha Yilva Rabbi Yochanan Vitem Rabbi Lazar said, Ein Ishta Shel Adam Mesa Elim Ken Vakshim and Mamen Ve'en Loy. Well, it's an easy way. You want to get I should take this off, but you want to get rid of your wife. You don't have to hire someone or what's it called. Simple solution. What did Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi say? Ein Ishta Shel Adam Mesa. The reason a person's wife dies is Elim Ken Vakshim and a Mamen. If they ask him for money, he owes a pledge, he owes money, Ve'en he doesn't have. If you can't pay back, that's hear me while you're laughing. I'm not joking. Okay, that's the shed. So easy way out. Shenema, it says in Pasuk, it's a Pasuk in Mishlei. The meforshim argue what the pasuk is talking about, whether it's talking about if someone stole money, and the Mishlei, but Shlomo Melech is telling you don't steal money because if you can't pay back, we're going to take away your sheets, and sheets mean basically the wife, because that's who you share your bed with. Some of the meforshim says it's talking about if you made a vow, which is really what we want to learn, that if you made a vow and you can't pay up the vow. Some other people say that if you become a guarantor for someone and you can't pay it up. The Shlomo Melech tells you that im ein lecha l'shalem, if you can't repay it, lo moikach mishkavcha mitachtecha. Why should it take away your bed from under you? And what we learn from it is, what's mishkavcha? Is your wife. You sleep. You sleep with your wife in one bed. The Eibush is going to take away your wife. If you owe the Eibush a korban because you decided to bring a korban chatos, oila, shlam, whatever korban is, and you're not paying it back, the pasuk tells you the Eibush is going to take away your wife. No. Oh, he's saying that's okay, but
There has to be a place for the shchina.
Yeah. In any case, that the Russian guy told me then. So you asked him. I remember what I asked him, but it says, if I have money, his wife. I have a wife. Then I have children. His problem is no money, is no wife, is no children, is no problem. That's the way his outlook on life. A Russian taxi driver. Is no money, is no children, is no problem. Yeah. So if there's no money, then there's no wife. But basically, so here we would have thought that you owe the Eibush a korban. You decided you're going to bring a korban chatos, or inside of bring korban. You had to bring a korban chatos. You decided to bring a korban oil, or end a korban, and you're oivim baltach, and you didn't bring in a time. It should be considered the same as the pasuk in Mishlei, that you're not repaying your thing. Kamash Malon, the pasuk here teaches us, no, b'chochet, you're going to have a sin. V'lo ishtachochet, your wife is not going to die if you don't bring a korban on time. So don't do it with kabbanis. You have to find a different solution. Do it with something else. So it's some of us should speak about it. It's a metaphorical thing. Anyways, obviously everything is a metaphor, right? So okay. If you want. Tan Rabbanon. Yeah. So it's a man's world, as they say, right? Tana Rabbanon. Okay, this is the end of this piece. So basically, we had a pasuk for b'chochet. What is it coming to teach you? That you have a chet, v'lo b'ishtachochet. That's what the final answer. That the wife is not at fault over here, and she's not going to die just because you did not repay a payment. Some meforshim say that this is talking about.
You might die.
So it's it's not really talking about when you don't have money. It's if you decide to bring a korban and you just lazy in a delay. It says that's.
Don't take it serious.
Yeah, don't say it. Yeah.
It's insult.
Yeah. Tana Abanan. Now, there's a lot of interesting meforshim on this thing because it's like a very controversial type of thing. There's a lot of interesting meforshim on this piece. If you basically you have the money to pay back and you decide I'll do it later, then you don't have the money to pay back. All of a sudden they're coming to ask you, it's like, where's the money? It's like, I don't have it. I spent it. I gambled it. Whatever. Tana Abanan. A different pasuk, a new pasuk. The pasuk that we discussed before is a pasuk in the volume Chav Beis. Two pasukim that it speaks about. This is the clear we learn on Yantif. It speaks about Nedalim. Two pasukim later, the pasuk almost repeats itself. It says Moitzas Fasecha. I'm reading it in the pasuk on the side here. Moitza, it's Dalet in this Gemarrah. Moitzas Fasecha Tishma. The utterances of your lips you should keep. Ve'asisa, and you should do kasher nadat l'Hashem Elokecha, just like you vowed for the Eibishter. Nadava asher ד.ב-ו.ב, whatever your mouth said. So first of all, the pasuk itself repeats itself a few times. You should keep the words. You should do the words that he said, and he should do it. And then we just had a pasuk that he should do whatever the Eibishter told you, whatever you decide, whatever you pledged. Zok the Gemarrah, Tana Abanan. Moitzes Fasecha. He's going to dissect each few words. Moitzes Fasecha, the utterances of your lips. Whatever comes out of the lips. Zumitzas aseh. It's coming to teach you that if you do keep your vows, if you pay up your pledge, you're going to have a mitzvah to say. Have a mitzvah. Tishmael, zumitzas loisaseh. You should watch, you should keep. This is a mitzvah loisaseh. Why is there a mitzvah loisaseh? Every time, in order to be over mitzvah loisaseh, there has to be a negative statement. It has to be loisaseh, loy this, loy that. The Gemarrah, however, says that there are a few other words that you can use in order to make it a negative commandment. Hishamel, pen, va'al are all negative commandment. And Tishma is one of them. So Tishma is a shaman. Zog the Gemarrah. So Tishma is mitzvah loisaseh. Ve'asisa, and you should do it. You said moitzah secha, keep your vows and you'll have a mitzvah. What's ve'asisa? Ve'asisa is tied. You should do it even if you can't. How can you do it if you can't? Someone else makes you do it. Who is the someone else? Azar the bezdin sheyasucha. That the bezdin, once they find out that you made a vow, the bezdin is going to go down. Is going to force you to make it happen. Kasher nadalta is a neder. That's simple pshat. That's a neder. What's a neder? I accept on myself. I'm going to bring a korban. I'm going to bring a certain amount I'm going to bring a certain worth. Now I'm sponsoring a worth of a certain item to the Beis Hamikdash. It's on me, not on the item. L'Hashem Elokecha. Okay, we know it's going to the Eibishter. Why is it repeating the words L'Hashem Elokecha? Something that goes completely to the Eibishter. Chatois, Hashamas, Oiluf, Shlamim. These are types of kabbanas that you have to bring to the Beis Hamikdash. Nadava, Kamashmoy. Again, what's a nadava? Hadei zu. Not hadei olai, hadei zu. Neder is hadei halai. I have to bring a certain korban. I have to bring the worth of a certain item. Nadava is I'm pointing to an item and I say the worth of this item or this animal I'm going to bring as a korban.
He's saying even if he can't afford it, let's say he pledged something, he had money, and then the next day he lost all his money.
No, you're still stuck on the. Still was what about? What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying like you said that the best thing could force him to.
Yeah. Somehow sell yourself or find the money, borrow the money. The bezdin is going to make you happen, or maybe you don't want to do it. The bezdin is going to force you. Asher debalta, that you it says Asher debalta that you spoke. It's again redundant. We said it that moitzes secha. What else are you uttering? What else are you saying that you have to keep? He decided to donate money or an item to upkeep the Beis Hamikdash. Beficha, so it's tzedakah. This is nothing connected to the Eibishter, nothing connected to the Beis Hamikdash. It's tzedakah, some purely helping a poor person, a poor Jew. So all these items, all these things we mentioned, we have to keep, and you cannot delay. So now we're going to dissect it even further. You're telling me that if you keep these utterances, if you keep the vow that you make, you're going to have a mitzvah to say. You don't need to bring this pasuk mitzvah. We have a pasuk that we learned on a page earlier. We learned that whenever Yidden went up to the Beis Hamikdash, which is basically every single yontif, you went up to the Beis Hamikdash, you had a chiyuv alila. Whenever you go up to Beis Hamikdash, it says "Va'aveisim shama u'leseichem v'zivcheichem shalmei." What does the pasuk say? "Va'aveisim shama u'leseichem v'zivcheichem masmaiseseichem estumas etchem nidreichem nidveseichem." You have to bring all these items to the Beis Hamikdash, and this is a mitzvah say. You go to the Beis Hamikdash, you bring these items, you have a mitzvah asaseh. So why does it repeat itself? Moitzah sechot Ishmael, telling you that you have a mitzvah asaseh. We know it from a different pasuk. So question number 1. Tishmael, it says, turns into a mitzvah lois, a negative commandment. So mitzvah lois, lamali. The fact that if you don't bring it, you're going to be oived aveda, we know already, do not delay the payment. Nafka. Third question. Ve'osisa, and you should do it. It says, Azor lebezdin sheyasucha, that the bezdin should force you to do it. Lamali. Miyakev oisai nafka. You learn from a different pasuk, Yaakov oisai. How do you learn from Yaakov oisai? Now, of course, the Tani we learned in Abraisa. It says in a pasuk. What does it say in a pasuk? Im oila kabanim in abaka zachat hamikavana. If you bring a carbon oil, you should bring it from the male, an unblemished. You should bring it to the opening of the oil moed. Yakliv oisa, you should bring it. Again, the word oisa is redundant. We're talking about the animal. Malamed shekoifin oisa. This is coming to teach us that once you decide to bring an animal, a carbon oil, which is not. You never chayiv a carbon oil. You vow you donate a carbon oil, but once they found out that you want to donate a carbon oil, koifin oisai, and what if he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore or doesn't have money? Koifin oisai, they force him. The best forces him. Yachal bal kochai. Could it be that to force him against his will? Tamad lemin letzoyin. The pasuk finishes letzoyin. It has to be his will. How can you force him and it is his will? You use a cattle prod. You're waiting for that, right? Okay, it says and you force him until it says I want. So basically, yeah, but he says I want. There's a when it comes to gittin, when it comes to gittin, there's something called the get meusa. Get meusa is basically a forced get. A get meusa is an issue. Can't force someone to give a get. A get has to be what's it called? That's the story of the cattle prod, right? Yes. They forced him to do a get, but basically he's forcing him until they ask them so many questions back and forth to make sure that's not a get meusa. It's the same idea. That although yes, it's forced, but it's basically.
After a while, he said.
It basically, I want, please, I want. Okay, so Zakti Gemarrah. So for basically, we have a pasuk that teaches us that if he doesn't want to bring it, we force him. So why do you have to use the pasuk Vel Sisa to teach us that a bezdin forces him? We already have a pasuk, and for the Gemarrah, it's two different things. The pasuk, all these other pasukim that he mentioned here, is talking about that he designated the Veisim Shama, Basim Shama, Veisim Shama, Oisai, all these things we're talking about, that he pledged and he designated an animal, he designated an item. It's already designated. He pledged and he designated. Now, all his delayment is bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. That's the pasuk. The first pasuk, Maseches Rosh Hashana.
Between designating and pledging.
Pledging his word. I am going to give you $100. Actually, I'm going to take $100 and say this $100 I'm putting away to give. So now I'm designated, or an animal. I'm going to bring a korban, or I'm actually going to the market to buy an animal. So it's 3 steps: designation. Pledging, designation, actually bring it to. So the other psukim speak about that he designated he pledged and he designated. The Maseches Rosh Hashana is speaking about the lips. All he did was he spoke. He uttered words that he's pledging something. Zot Gemarrah, Chad, the Alma v'le'afish. He only spoke, but he didn't designate it. He didn't put aside an animal. Said this is the animal I'm going to the korban. V'chad, the afish v'le'akiv. The second one is talking about the other psukim of Veisim Shama, Basim Shama, and Oisai is talking about that he not only he pledged it, but he also designated. But he didn't bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. Now, why do we need both? If we only bring the second psuk, the first psuk, the Maseches Rosh Hashana, that Omar he only spoke about it, but didn't designate it. You could say like this: Mishum de he did not fulfill anything. All he said was words, and he did not fulfill anything, and therefore he is over aveda if he don't bring it on time. Aval afish v'le'akiv. But if he designated and he didn't actually bring to the Beis Hamikdash, maybe you could say, Kol heicha de'isa, wherever the animal, the item is, Begaza de Lachmanis, it's in the treasure chambers of the Eibishter. So, does it make a difference if it's in my house or in the Beis Hamikdash house? The whole world is the Eibishter, so it's there already. So if you would bring the pasuk only where it says that you're not allowed to lay a paying a pledge after uttering, you would say if you uttered and you didn't even fulfill anything, you didn't designate anything, say that you're evil. But if you designated and you didn't bring the Beis Hamikdash, big deal. So therefore, you have to have the other pasuk. So maybe now say only the other pasuk and learn maybe only bring a pasuk that teaches us that once you designate, you have to bring the Beis Hamikdash, and this would teach us that if you didn't designate, and you didn't do anything, you're also evil. V'yashmin and afish v'le'akiv the kamash legabei. Aval ama v'le'afish emedibur le'klum. If you would only teach that he only tell us that once you designate it and you don't bring the Beis Hamikdash, you're evil, you would say, okay, once I designate it, I'm delaying it from bringing it to the Eibishter, I'm going to be evil. But if I didn't even designate it yet, only pledged, okay, it's a few words, a set of words, what's the big deal? So that's why we need both psukim. One to teach us that once you pledge, you have to fulfill your pledge. Once, and the other pasuk teaches you, once you designate, you have to fulfill your designation, you have to bring it to the tzlicha. So the basically was telling us like this: the pasuk moitzes usecha tishmael, the fact that you have to, it's the mitzvah esse, that you're over aloisese, that the bezin is making you do it. If it's a neder or an adava or tzedakah, this is talking about that you spoke but it didn't designate. The Gemarrah is going to have a big problem. How does a neder work? Neder says, I want to bring a korban. So therefore, I didn't designate anything. How does an adava work? I pointed an animal, I say, Halei zu korban, this is a korban. So I designated. How could he say this pasuk speaks that it wasn't designated yet? The pasuk says nadava. Nadava is designation. Zah the Gemarrah, Omi matzas amas. How can he say the Amav of the Afish that he only spoke words and it didn't designate anything? Vonadava ksiva, it says the word nadava. Utanani, we learned in a Mishnah. What's the neder? I have to bring an oila. So I didn't designate an animal. It's on me. I have the achrayis. I have the responsibility to buy an oila. What's an adava? I pointed an animal and said, this is an oila. This is a side note. What's the difference in a neder and a dava? What difference if I have to bring a korban oila? This is a korban oila. Neder. What happens if someone said I have to bring a korban oila? What happens if the animal? Then I designate an animal. What happens if the animal dies, mace, or niganav, or the animal gets stolen or gets lost? I still have the responsibility because I put it on myself, not on the animal. Nedava mace or nignava. I don't have to get a substitute because I didn't say that I have to bring it. I said this animal should be a korban. But in any case, if this pasuk says nadava, it means it's a designation. How can he say this pasuk means just pledging without designation? The Gemarrah is going to answer. There's a certain way to pledge that seems like a nadava, but it's not a full nadava, so there's no designation. So the Gemarrah.
That would be nowadays. Person says, "I pledge X amount of money, $10,000, $20,000." That would be considered a.
So one second. One second. We find it. This I need to bring an oila, but however, I put a clause in the statement. If I buy a korban and it gets lost, I have no responsibility. So it's a harei olai. So it's kind of a neder, but it's really a neder because I said that it's no achrayis, but I didn't designate an animal. So this pasuk could be speaking about uttering without designation. Regarding your question, so it's actually a question that's brought in almost all meforshim, but it's I'm talking about all the shonim and the achrayim pnei Yeshua. But it's really connected with the next statement. So let's learn. We have a few minutes, and I want to discuss it. The last part of that pasuk says beficha. What is beficha? To tzedakah. Tzedakah is for poor people. Amar Rava said, in regards to all the other things, the kabbanis and the kaddish kabayis, you have 3 yom tovim at most, or 5 yom tovim to fulfill your pledge. When it comes to tzedakah, it's different. Amar Rava tzedakah. As soon as you pledge it, you have to pay it up. My timer, there are many poor people out there. Yeah, for sure. That's a state. That's not a state. Not chidush. You don't have to tell you that. What is Rav teaching us? Mao the tema kivin de beyond the kabbanas ksiva, because tzedakah is written in the same pasuk that mentions kabbanas. You would have thought you only over once at least 3 yom tovim pass by. Kabbanas kamash malon. No, hasamu the talino lechmana ba'glan. Kabbanas. When you bring kabbanas, usually connected to a yom tov. Aval hacha. Tzedakah is different. The ashchicha there are many niyim that are there. The Me'ilim, which summarized the Gemarrah, brought down and said basically at the bottom of this piece, it says that people that pledge in a shul for Sefer Torah, for mitbachos, all these things, it's not the same way. You don't have to pay it up right away. Same thing with the niyim, the other contemporary, poskim, right, that it's very different nowadays when you pledge tzedakah for an organization, pledge tzedakah for a shul. They're not expected to pay it up right away. However, many of them say, if the gabe comes and says, or the gizba that says, you got an email, invoice needs to be paid, basically requesting the payment, technically you should pay it right away because it's going to be problematic, or you have a yontif or something. But basically, so they all speak about it. If you pledge some money, so it's not, nowadays it's not the same as it used to be. So even in the Shonim's days already, because the Me'idah was Rishon, Rashba, Ritva, Ram, they all speak about it, and they say that it's not. That's.
But QuickBooks is the one that's sending the reminders.
So it's not. But who is typing it in?
30 days. No, you put it in once, and every 30 days.
Now there's apps. There's
Right.
The Gizba is going to tell you just put an automated payment. As soon as he pledges, go in the bank and says in 30 days that it's sent. So, okay. Let's finish. Rav, 5 lines in the bottom. Rav is teaching us another thing. We learned until now that if the Yom Tovim pass by, you have 1 Yom Tov, 2 Yom Tov, 3 Yom Tovim, or whatever, you oivel on a loisese. How about oivel on an essa, which it's an essa that you oivel, but it's not a loisese. And basically, in addition to the loisese that you oivel, are you also oivel an essa? You also oivel an essa. Why? Rashi says here, because it says in pasuk of Vasis Shama Vavesim Shama, it says Vasim Shama Vavesim Shama. So whenever you go to Beis Hamikdash, if you come to Beis Hamikdash, you have to Vavesim Shama. You have to bring a kalban. You have to bring all the kabbanas. So you're not gonna be oivel about the achal, but you're oivel an essa. Meisvei, the Gemarrah reflect the kasha. Hey, ד.ב-ו.ב. There was a machlokes in the Gemarrah that's regarding a kalban shalom. A kalban shalom can be brought from a nekeva, or is a nekeva actually. What if the animal became pregnant after he designated as a kalban shalom, or was pregnant already? What do you do with the vlad? What do you do with the calf? So there's a machlokes. According to the Belazar, I think there was the machlokes over there. He says that it's not a shlomim, and he learns it from the way the ד.ב-ו.ב say here, no, that it is a shlomim. Hey, ד.ב-ו.ב, they both testified of vlad shlomim, shikov shlomim, that the vlad, the calf of a shlomim, is also considered a shlomim. It's like its mother. This is a side note. is gesagt. Ani made, I'm testifying. We had an animal, a cow, that was supposed to be a shlomim, and we ate it during Pesach, not the Kalban Pesach, was a shlomim. And its calf, we also ate as a shlomim. When? Bechag and Sukkot. So the mother we ate on Pesach, and the calf we ate on Sukkot. So Bishlei Pesach lekavur. Why didn't they? So basically, you have a thing like this. You have a Kalban Pesach. You have a Kalban Shlomim. That you're shechting it. You find a calf instead, or right before during Pesach, the mother gives birth, and you shech the mother for Kalban Shlomim, and the calf is over here. So if it's a Shlomim and it has the same designation as the mother Kalban Shlomim, you can't push it off. According to the Rava, you're going to be over an essay if you push it off past Pesach. Why didn't you bring it during Pesach? Okay, why did you bring it during Pesach? So the Gemarrah says, actually, Pesach itself, maybe we can say why didn't bring it during Pesach. Why? Because the animal has to be at least 8 days old. What if the animal was born on Pesach or right before Pesach? So you can bring it on Pesach. But then there's Shavuos. What does it say? V'chalnu v'lada, we ate a calf, shlomim, as a Kalban shlomim, bechag. on Sukkot. Why did you skip Shavuos? Bishlam Pesach le'kavua. Maybe the animal, the calf, was not 8 days old. Why did you skip over Atzeres Shavuos? And then you over Esa. According to you, that you're over Esa. Why did you skip over Shavuos? No, you have to say that your statement is not true. That if you do not bring a Korban, you're not over Esa. Yes, you are over Esa. But what happened over there? Was sick. Who was sick? Huh? Who was sick? Rashi says, Havlad, the animal. Ibn Hananel says, it's in the previous page, I believe. Yeah. Ibn Hananel says, it's over here. Yep, it says it has to be healthy. So,
I can't go to
yeah. So, Ben Hanan, every Gemarrah is different. So Ben Hanan says that the owner was sick. There are many the meforshim that argue about this. It doesn't really make a difference for our Gemarrah. It was sick; it couldn't bring it. Pnei Yeshua is trying to adjust and basically say that the Rashi doesn't disagree with Ben Hanan. He says Vlad, but it could be also the owner. Anyways, someone was sick on Shavuos and he couldn't bring it, and therefore they skipped Shavuos. Simple answer. Ravashi says, no, don't go there. When it says Chag, which Yontif does he mean? Simple answer. It says Chag, it doesn't say Ve'idach. So why doesn't Rav Zvid answer to a simple answer? It says, whenever if you write just Chag, then you can translate it whatever Yontif you want. But if you mention a Yontif, and Rav Papai said Pesach, then when he says Chag, it can't be. It must be you have to. If you want to mention Shavuos, you have to say Shavuos. If you just say Chag, it's going to be Sukkot. So therefore, he has to say that the animal was sick. Okay, but
so again, because you said Pesach, because you said Pesach, therefore the Chag
means Sukkot. Because then, if you want to say Shavuos, you have to say Atzeres. You would have to name it. If you just say Chag, it could be any. But if you say Pesach, you have to say, then Chag has to be, then if you want to say Shavuos, you have to say. So basically, going back to the statement that yes, indeed, if you skip a Yontif, even one Yontif, you're Oivan Esa. Bal Ta'achar is after 3 Yom Tovim, but the Esa is after 1. Finish the statement, finish this Gemarrah. Actually, no, because this is this is actually a very interesting piece. We'll do that, I guess, after, because it's getting to the entire. We just started, I guess, because if you once 3 Yom Tov pass, so it's not that you over one Avela. Every single morning a new Avela starts. At night there's no Avela because you can't bring a carbon at night. But in the morning you got a new Avela. The Gemarrah is going to ask what? What is that? Yeah, they're getting married. Exactly. Yeah. The Gemarrah is going to ask a question, a very interesting statement. What if he says basically that your Oivel, either if 3 Yom Tovim pass by, but not a year, which is possible from Nisan to Tishrei, is 7 months, or if a year passes by, but there's no 3 Yom Tovim inside. The Gemara is going to later on discuss how is that possible. How can a year pass by and no Yom Tovim inside? I guess I will leave for next time.